Good afternoon and welcome to Pathways to STEM Careers, Community Colleges. My name is Andre Porter and I'm the Policy Director for Science is Us. Before we get started, we want to go over a few pieces of housekeeping. This meeting will be recorded for on-demand viewing and housed on Science is Us's YouTube page. Feel free to subscribe to Science is Us's YouTube page, as well as follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, as well as visit scienceisus.org and sign up for additional updates. To reduce background noise, the attendees for this meeting will be in listen-only mode. If you have any questions for our panelists, or excuse me, for our speakers, you can submit that via the Q&A function in Zoom, and we'll get to as many as we can. If for any reason that you lose your connection, please close the Zoom window and re-click the link that you found in your meeting invite. If that does not work, you may need to reboot your computer and follow the same instructions and click on that link. As we get started, I would like to introduce the Executive Director for Science is Us, Rachel Korestis, to provide opening remarks.
Thank you, Andre, and thanks to all of you for joining us today for what I hope will be a really interesting conversation on STEM careers and how community colleges in particular contribute to the STEM career workforce and economy in Iowa. We've got a great panel of speakers today from government, education, and business, and I want to thank all of them for joining us in today's conversation, and also for all of the co-hosts and co-sponsors who have joined us in this webinar. Again, as Andre mentioned, my name is Rachel Korestis. I am the Executive Director of Science is Us. Science is Us is a nationwide initiative that is foundation supportive, and we bring together a group of 8 science and engineering organizations primarily, but also include industry, higher education, and labor. And we come together to try to create a broad bipartisan political base of support for science and technology. And really the reason why we're trying to do that is to try to promote science and engineering broadly and to begin to bridge some of these gaps that we have between policymakers and science and engineering, and to do so in a way that explains both the benefits of science and engineering to our states, to our economies, to our citizens, but also to kind of promote science and engineering and make that something that policymakers will rely on, but also will create policies to support the enterprise. And that's really what we're here to talk about today, which is sort of the benefit of STEM careers. We, as Andre mentioned, if you visit our website, you can find an analysis that we released at the beginning of 2020 that took a look at how STEM supports the economy nationwide, but then really drilled down and to see how it supported the economy in Iowa. You probably won't be surprised to learn that the majority of Iowa's economy is supported by STEM. STEM supports 71% of Iowa's output, 65% of the state's GDP, and 58% of Iowa's jobs. And when we think about STEM professionals, we tend to often think about those folks, maybe doctors or with PhDs, certainly folks with bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, or higher. But when we dug down deeper into who those STEM professionals actually are, we found that in Iowa, 63% of those STEM professionals did not hold a bachelor's degree. And that's actually very close to the national number again as well, which was about 6 in 10 STEM professionals don't hold a bachelor's degree. So that changes perhaps that stereotypical perception of who a scientist is from, say, the university professor or the doctor or even someone working in Silicon Valley to really folks that are much more integral to Iowa's communities and Iowa's economy. That's nurses, advanced manufacturing specialists, architectural draftspersons, logisticians, bookkeepers, and so forth, and so on. And the bulk of the training for those folks happens at community colleges, both here in Iowa and around the country. And community colleges are really a key piece in training Iowans for that wide range of STEM jobs that are found in communities all across the state. And so we're really excited to focus on that topic today, to talk a little bit more about the full spectrum of STEM professions. All of these are really well-paying jobs. They're really critically important jobs. And I think that there's a wide range of opportunities for folks out there in Iowa. And so we want to dive into that a little bit deeper. And I'm going to turn it back over to my colleague, Andre, to introduce our panelists. And I look forward to a really great conversation with you all today.
Thanks, Rachel. And as Rachel mentioned, we have a great group of speakers, and we will be leading off with Dr. Jeff Weld. Jeff directs Iowa's widely acclaimed statewide STEM education program, the Iowa Governor's STEM Advisory Council, on behalf of the governor. A decorated college professor, scholar, and former high school teacher, Jeff frequently writes for, speaks to, and strategizes with groups aspiring to unleash the transformative power of STEM education at the international, national, state, and local levels. In 2018 and 2019, Jeff served as a senior advisor for STEM education in the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, where I personally met him and got to really witness that enthusiasm firsthand, representing the STEM Education Coalition. In that role, he led the production of America's Strategy for STEM Education, a nonpartisan 5-year plan to guide federal agencies and to rally the nation around STEM education. Jeff earned his doctorate in science education, as well as a master's and bachelor's degrees at the University of Iowa. Jeff, you have the floor.
Thank you, Andre. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, AAAS and Science is Us for this opportunity to tell some of Iowa's story, which I'm going to suspect is microcosmic of the national story when it comes to the importance of STEM education to the economy and the importance of community colleges in helping us advance that cause. I'm going to go through a quick who we are and what we do and what kind of results we're getting in this STEM Council. And I'm going to end with just a little bit of homework, all with just a few minutes here so we can hear from my esteemed colleagues as well. But real quickly, Iowa created the Governor's STEM Advisory Council 10 years ago. We're at our 10th year anniversary, founded by then Governor Terry Branstad. For all the reasons we all share here today, we're about fueling a talent pipeline for the high demand careers, as you heard in Rachel's opening, that predominate across the state of Iowa in agriculture, technology, healthcare, finance, manufacturing, and more. This initiative, although stood up by Governor Branstad, has been chaired or co-chaired by his then Lieutenant Governor, Kim Reynolds, now Governor of the state of Iowa, to whom I proudly serve, and the 59 STEM Council members that surround her and I in moving this crusade forward in its 10th year. And Iowa's 15 community colleges figure quite prominently in the work that we're doing in a lot of ways. 2 of the community colleges of Iowa serve as regional hubs for our STEM ecosystem or STEM network that spans the state of Iowa. Many community colleges of Iowa are represented on the STEM Council by their presidents or upper administrations. Many more serve on regional boards and committees for that matter. And all 15 of Iowa's community colleges are critical partners in helping us all to deliver the talent wave that Iowa desperately needs, as does our entire country. And for me personally, this topic today and these partnerships with Iowa's community colleges are particularly near and dear. I actually got my own higher education start at a community college, Greenfield Community College in Western Massachusetts, where I began my own college aspirations. And then a few years later, my first higher education teaching position, also at a community college. In this case, Des Moines Area Community College in Newton, Iowa was my first post-secondary gig. So I've always loved the vibe and the mission of the community colleges from both sides of the desk, as it were. And I've always felt that community colleges are bridges. Unlike that famous Alaskan bridge to nowhere, the community colleges to me have always been a bridge to anywhere. Certainly a bridge to my current position. I owe to my community college start. Certainly a bridge to the skilled trades that await so many young Iowans and older reskilled Iowans as well. Certainly a bridge in my case too to professional study at a four-year institution and beyond, if that's what somebody chooses to do. A bridge to personal enlightenment or a new credential, etc. We know the array, the beautiful array of diverse enrollees in our community colleges and what rich experiences that makes for not only the academic preparation, but beyond the academic, the social preparation to thrive in diverse communities and a diverse society. So big fan, big advocate, and hopefully an equally strong partner to the community colleges of Iowa, as they are to me and to our STEM mission in the state. So that's the who. The what we do, I'm going to bring up a PowerPoint slide deck of just a few slides to paint a picture of what Iowa's STEM Council has been charged to do lately. So pardon while I share my screen and bring up the appropriate deck here. And with luck, you are now looking at a slide deck. Yes? All right, thank you. This is us. Here's principally the signature programs that we operate here in our 10th year. Signature program at the top, Scale Up. We scour the country. We scour the world annually.
Jeff, really quickly, you're in presenter mode. We're seeing the other end of your slide, so you have to switch it over.
Okay, let me try a flip here. I'm going to bring this over to this screen. You would have thought we tested this. Actually, we did. And how about now, Andre?
No, you're still in presenter mode. You may want to unshare and then turn the presentation on and then reshare.
You know what I think I'll do? I'm just going to let the slides sit here. I'm not giving away any divulged secrets by letting you peek ahead at the slides to come. I'm just going to go old school here. The slide, which hopefully you can see here, is predominantly 4 signature programs and their logos: STEM Scale Up, STEM Best, Externships, and STEM Teaching Awards. Real briefly, the Scale Up initiative is about scouring the earth, as I mentioned earlier, to find the best known STEM programming. And by the way, our purview is K-12. We are a segue, we're a launch pad, we're a springboard to post-secondary study at the community colleges. And we do that by delivering to youth of our state, in school and out of school, some of the best known STEM programming available. And that's a massive undertaking by a number of very talented people and the precious investment of the Iowa legislature to deliver programs. And you'd be familiar with many. Project Lead the Way and Boston Museum of Sciences Engineering is Elementary, FIRST programming, FIRST robotics, FIRST Lego League, and that sort of thing. We're also establishing STEM schools around the state. I believe we're at 80 now, STEM Best models. The BEST is yet another acronym, Business Engaging Students and Teachers. And these 80 programs span small, rural, so-called 1A schools, as well as large, urban, densely populated schools. They all have a key thing in common, though. They're connecting what's studied in a classroom, whether that be math, science, technology, or what have you, with what happens in the world of work, helping students and teachers apply what they learn, make it more meaningful, and at the same time, helping local businesses and employers with their own bottom lines, providing products, assistance, insights, and support. A third is teacher externships. Nothing new, but Iowa has really taken this to a new level. Thanks to National Science Foundation funding, we developed a 6-week deep dive in the world of industry on the part of Iowa's secondary teachers of math, science, and technology. They earn graduate credits, they earn a generous stipend, and they work shoulder to shoulder with professionals in the world of IT or the sciences or mathematics or the health field over the course of a summer, not only delivering service as a talented teacher can do, but also preparing to translate what they learned and what they did that summer back into classrooms for hopefully the rest of the duration of their careers, helping students in their class appreciate the careers that are out there waiting for them, as well as to appreciate the content that chemistry and algebra and trigonometry matter immensely in the world of construction and surgery and finance. The fourth logoed one is the Iowa STEM Teacher Award in partnership with the company here, Kemin Industries, recognizing 6 of the most outstanding teachers of the state every year. And there's a variety of sub-programming. I mentioned here, we do a lot of professional development. We've stood up, we've, in partnership with the Department of Education, stood up a number of elementary schools focused on computer science. We hold an annual summit, a number of festivals across the state that connect communities in the name of STEM, an IT program, IT Imagine, a variety of online resources, business and community resources for starting partnerships or launching programs, posters that celebrate some of Iowa's distinguished STEM professionals that are shipped out to teachers annually, podcast series that highlights the work that we do, Twitter chats, STEM blog, etc. What becomes of it? Actually, let me just anchor what we do to the federal STEM education strategic plan. If you're unfamiliar with it, it came out in 2019, basically, very early 2019. Andre mentioned in my introduction that I had the great honor of carrying the Iowa story to Washington, D.C. And the Iowa story figured prominently in the development of a federal STEM plan. We're all closely aligned. It begins with a goal of a diversity imperative, that we engage more kids of diversity, ethnic, racial, geographic, financial, in STEM pursuits and STEM opportunities. It's got a secondary goal of preparing the workforce of the future. So I know this resonates with everybody here today. I think I've done enough polling in this realm to know that these are critical priorities for everybody in the STEM space. And that plan details how to achieve these goals: work-based learning, making learning matter to the student for its applications beyond the classroom walls. So that's prominently featured in the roadmap. Innovation and entrepreneurship, equipping students to innovate, to think creatively, to collaborate, to imagine, to create, to make things. That makes excellent manufacturers down the line. And education employer partnerships of all stripes, some of which I mentioned. The more we can all connect the world of work with the world of education, the more rapidly and more effectively we're going to reach the lofty goals we've all put out there. So what do we have to show for it? Kind of the third leg of my presentation here. Real quickly here, I've got to wrap up, I know, but student interest and academic performance are measured annually by an independent evaluation consortium. The green bar that you're seeing, those are students that took part in these scale-up programs. The orange bar are the rest of the students of Iowa. About 1/5 of them took part in the STEM programs. So as you can see, across the STEM spectrum, interest is higher if they've taken part in our programs. And over to the far right under interest, STEM careers, and the interest in working in Iowa upon completing their studies. They're not up where we'd like them to be, but they're better if they take part in our programs. And that's priceless evidence of effect. Academic performance across the grade levels. You're looking at grade 6 to grade 10. No matter the year, and whether it's math or it's science, students in STEM are outperforming their peers. And what of it, one might think. Finally, this evidence is fresh off the hopper. A consortium led by the Iowa Department of Education analyzed for us, where are these students today? The million-dollar question, right? Where are they now? And these bar graphs represent where those 2015 to 2019 students are that took part in these programs. The blue bars, these are the students that enrolled in Iowa State universities, Iowa State University, University of Iowa, or University of Northern Iowa, where I'm housed. And freshmen incoming between 15 to 19, how many enrolled in STEM majors? I'm so delighted to say that 59% of the incoming freshmen who took part in our programs are majoring in STEM. That's a difference of 18% from the kids who didn't take part in our programs. 40.6 of them are enrolling in STEM. The community colleges in orange, and this will lead to my homework, stronger numbers too. If they came through our STEM programs, they're 16.3% more likely to major in STEM programming at Iowa's community college, as opposed to the 11.3% who enroll in STEM who we didn't touch, a gain of 5%. So we're very excited. Now, the next indicator we're all going to be looking for is application piles and how talented and diverse an applicant pool are Iowa's employers finding. That will be the day that we come full circle. We're not quite there yet, but here's my homework and then I'll wrap up. That community college bar comparison compared to the university comparison suggests that they're looking at completely different indicators. And in fact, they are. If you're familiar with the advanced CTE 16 career clusters, that's a very dated metric. And so there's a lot of thoughtful folks on this webinar that I thought might be able to help us with a quest. And that is, when we all talk about STEM at the community colleges, the 16 career clusters are not doing us any favors. They're not including the health fields, for example, or agriculture, or construction, or finance, or manufacturing. Those are other career clusters separate from STEM. We know there's a whole lot more STEM majors at the community colleges than use of that metric provides. So help me update how we consider a STEM major at Iowa's universities and community colleges and across the country, as I'm predicting the numbers at least 2 to 3 times higher than what the advanced CTE 16 clusters would lead us to believe. But that is your homework, and that is my story of Iowa STEM. I look forward to hearing from my colleagues about some other very important work taking place at Iowa. Once again, Andre, grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
Absolutely, Jeff, and thank you. We actually have a quick question for you if you are willing to answer it. And it's around the best schools. And what advice would you give a school that is interested in becoming a STEM best school? And the same question for businesses wanting to be a participant.
Well, for those not from Iowa, you might be familiar with analogs to Iowa's STEM best model, the so-called CAPS model of Kansas City, and the P-Tech high schools of Chicago and elsewhere, New York City, that connect initially IBM with the high schools. Iowa's STEM best model borrowed some of the best practices from those two and others. But again, there's no secret to this sauce. It's merely our incentivizing the crossing of the street, literally and figuratively, from a school to a local employer or industry, a physics teacher who would like to strike up a relationship with a bridge construction company, a chemistry teacher and a chemistry class wanting to strike up a relationship with an ethanol production company, for example, a health class or physiology or biology class would like to strike up a relationship with a local natural resources entity or a local hospital. These are happening across the state, incentivized by modest grants that get an awful lot of bang for the buck. In terms of taking part in Iowa STEM Best, we have an RFP open right now, as a matter of fact, at iowastem.org that invites applicants, an educator or an education leader as the point of contact, bringing to the table a business partner or multiple business partners who propose to collaboratively build units or curricula or software packages or work-based learning experiences for students in local communities. So the good news is, here in Iowa, RFP open right now, closes January 3rd, for teachers with partners to line up an opportunity to create a STEM Best. And we hope to add another 20 to 30 to that family. So hopefully the next time we speak, it'll be 110 of these school business partners across the state of Iowa.
Fantastic. Thanks again, Jeff. And now we'll shift to our next speaker, Surgeon Golov. Surgeon is the Director for Community Education and Workforce Solutions at Hawkeye Community College. He previously worked at the Iowa Workforce Development in various workforce development roles. As a veteran of workforce development, he enjoys bringing students, businesses, and education together to make our community, the Iowa community, a better place. He is currently involved with apprenticeships, work-based learning, short-term career pathway programs, as well as competency-based education. Surgeon will share how Hawkeye Community College collaborates with businesses to develop and deliver education and training programs that lead to successful careers for students. Surgeon, you have the floor.
Thank you, and thank you for the introduction. I will share my screen here briefly too. So as Andre pointed out, my name is Surgeon Golov. I'm the Director for Business Community Education at Hawkeye Community College. And Jeff really kind of segued me good into this when he talked about, being a bridge. In my bio, I talked about that. So at a community college, we work with a variety of students. So, we have our traditional students who are just coming out of high school, but we also work with a lot of adults, whether it's for, finishing up their high school diploma or they're just upskilling. We work with English language learners, and then we also work with businesses on the incumbent worker training. And there's really no one way to, solve any workforce problem. So today I'm just going to focus on one way that we're trying to solve a workforce problem through this workforce strategy, and how we're doing that in a public-private partnership. So it's called Ignite, Mastering Manufacturing, and it is a partnership between K-12 system, Hawkeye Community College, and local businesses. We have a consortium of businesses that we work with, and I was supposed to have David Ottavianelli with John Deere here with me today, but unfortunately he wasn't able to make it. That was our primary partner who we started with, and what we wanted to do locally is to address this need that exists in a manufacturing world for STEM careers. And they realized that we have to start with youth, right, at the K-12 system. So we brainstormed what we're going to do, and we knew there was going to be a program that we're going to need. So instead of making something on our own, I went out and tapped into my industry network, and I connected with Amatrol, who we have a really good relationship with, working in other programs such as industrial maintenance and competency-based education. So they were able to connect me with this program called Ignite, Mastering Manufacturing. It started with the DoD, Department of Defense, and Jeff, you kind of alluded on that these STEM careers, they're important, to America's well-being, and especially manufacturing. So that's where Manufacturing USA came in, and they kind of rounded up more partners, the Ohio State University, the SM Materials Educational Foundation, as well as Past Innovation Lab. And they looked at a lot of data, and this is nothing new. There is a skills gap, and we know in Iowa, there's another initiative out there, the Future Ready Iowa initiative, which is aiming to close the skills gap by having 70% of Iowans have that post-secondary credential. It doesn't mean a 4-year degree, as you pointed out. Not everybody needs a 4-year degree, especially to be in a STEM field and make a high demand and high earning occupation. So, we're seeing this today. This survey was back from 2018, and now fast forward, 4 years, we have this huge gap and all these openings, not just manufacturing, but all across. And it's a huge economic impact. The time was 2.5 trillion. So, and these positions, they're harder to fill, right? Because they require more skill. So we wanted to focus is on a fundamentals program that's based on Industry 4.0 that's going to replace the baby boomer generation retiring. And it needed to do several different things. You need to provide those skills, to the students, but also need to educate the parents, counselors, mentors, and teachers. From a parent's standpoint, not everybody has kept up how industrial revolution has moved on from initially, what Ford did to industry, 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, now to the 4.0. So, there is a belief out there that a lot of it is just, unskilled manual labor, like you're working in a foundry, it's dirty. And most of them want that 4-year degree for their children. They don't associate those STEM degrees and positions with higher education and manufacturing. So we wanted to do something that's be able to change their mind. And also from the student standpoint, it needed to be interactive, right? It needed to be able to engage them, to really grasp them and bring them in, and because they like seeing how something is made. So it is a project-based learning that we're doing here. And then, same thing, from the counselors, because they're that bridge as well at a high school, what are you going to do? Where are you going to go? This is an opportunity for you. And we wanted to build a really good career pathway, for these students. So the way that it's seen, that you have multiple on-ramps and off-ramps, at a high school, it is designed for a high school system. When they enroll into Ignite program, and it has this core skills that they cluster on. So one is that those common employability and IT skills. So when we talk to our consortium of the employers, they talked a lot about just, common, soft skills, employability skills, and having just technical ability to run on a cloud-based software. So we incorporated that, communication, attendance, working as a team, presentation skills, and so on. There's a part on the material science, and it is core technical skills that it goes into. So you have to know the basics before you can move into more advanced stuff. Then it goes into advanced technical skills, and then it then really gets to the tech-specific competencies, and they're able to show the knowledge of those competencies both in a knowledge arena, in a theory, and also a task-oriented arena. And in the end, they do end up with some credentials, and being a multi-skilled advanced manufacturing technician, we aligned our credentials and our standards with SACA, which is Smart Automation Certification Alliance. So they're earning a credential at the same time as they're going through all of this. And this is really how it looks like. There's 6 components to this. So we have introduction to advanced manufacturing. That's just what gets them started, those core competencies. It then introduces the systems, and each one of these is supposed to be a semester. So they can either start in a 9th grade or 10th grade. And then it just kind of progresses from there. It becomes, it just builds on and builds on because it's competency-based, it's all stackable. And they have these stackable credentials that we have embedded within. And, towards the end there, it really gets in some of this, really technical stuff like data analytics and networking, the industrial Internet of Things, advanced materials and designs, and even robotic operations. And each course then is broken up into lessons, and each lesson has the objectives and the competencies, the student can go through. It's very structured, it's easy to follow. And we meant to do that on purpose because also the instructors for these STEM programs can be difficult to find. So if you have a very structured competency-based education program, you can take almost any teacher and make it, if they're a great facilitator, they'll be able to do this. So we did a lot of talk with Lyft in Michigan. They're one of the schools that piloted this with their local high school. And that's what they did. They got like a math teacher and a high school and a physics teacher, teaching advanced manufacturing. So it is a true STEM program. It's not just for manufacturing, because manufacturing of today, this industry 4.0, it has many components. We're starting into the mechatronics. It has IT because everything's connected, the sensors, the networking. There's that industrial design that they get exposed to CAM and CAD and SolidWorks. The network security, you have to keep your data safe and communicating. There is the industrial maintenance component, working with the PLCs, mechatronics, CNC, data analytics, engineering. So they get exposed for a little bit of everything, right? And it's very hands-on. And what it allows them to do, it's in part also a career exploration. So what really are you interested in? Which one of these is your niche? And from there, we provide those further career pathways. As a community college, we have different things that we do. We have our traditional, 2-year degrees you can go to. Like at Hawkeye, we have industrial automation. It's an AAS, but we also have some short-term certificates that we offer. Or you can go into an apprenticeship model as well. You know, John Deere is a partner with World Career Center. They have CNC apprenticeship, they have welding apprenticeship as well. Or, you know, if you want to go into engineering, that's going to be your university in the regions. So it really kind of gives them a little bit of everybody, you know, for the students, for the counselors, for the parents, but really it's engaging the students and, you know, seeing where they're really interested in. So this is nationwide. However, we are first in Iowa to do this. We have existing relationships already with Amatrol, with FANUC, with Rockwell Automation. And then John Deere is one of the big sponsors that really wanted to kind of get this going, and they allowed us to do that. And they were actually able to provide a startup funding for this program. So we're very grateful to them to do that. And since that time, we have expanded that consortium to 7 businesses that support this. And these are the credentials that we were able to align with SACA. So someone going through the all 6 semesters of Ignite would end up with 4 SACA credentials as well. So as I talked about before, you know, the curriculum is very structured. There's lessons, and each lesson has the objectives and the skills and the assessments, and it's very easy to work with. And another piece that we really wanted to have, you know, we started this in the middle of the pandemic. It needed to have that online piece. And Amatrol has a very good learning management system. It allows you to do all of your theory online. And what's really nice is they have virtual simulators that you can have on a PC or a tablet or a laptop that looks just like the training equipment that we have in the lab. So someone could do most of this online, interact with a simulator online, and then come into class and see the exact same thing in front of them. So the semester, it is in a semester layout. Each one of the Ignite modules is 1 semester, and there's the core technical block where they cover the technical competencies, whether it's you know, CNC or electrical, and then there's the employability block as well. And they each have what they call pod rotation, so they can move from one station to another and experience different subjects, while the instructor just kind of facilitates the learning in the classroom and in the lab. And then the most fun part, of course, is that core technical block where they actually get into the lab, they work on projects. So they have multiple mini projects that they work with where they have to work together. So once again, we're teaching those behavioral competencies that they have, how to work as a team, how to collaborate, how to communicate, and they also have to present that. So they're working on their presentation skills. But these are specifically designed that they have to employ all of the technical skills they have learned into these projects. Then they also have a master project later on. During the Playability Block, this is where we bring in the employers. So our business consortium, you know, you told us what you wanted, but the students, they also need to hear this. So we bring a lot of guest speakers. So they'll come in, someone from HR or a production manager, and they'll talk about, you know, what it looks like to work in advanced manufacturing, you know, what you need to be able to do. And they take them, you know, through the whole sometimes application process and what to do, but also as what their career pathway within that company can be, how you can move up, you know, from an entry-level position, you know, up. And as they move through those, each one of those pod rotation that I talked about, there's always a hands-on component that they work on. They cannot move, they cannot go through the pod rotation without finishing the previous one. And the nice thing about the LMS, it keeps track of all of that for us. Some of the equipment that we use is, you know, outlined here. So it's not a big footprint, you know, that robotics trainer is fairly large and the smart automation factory, but most of it's tabletops. So this can be replicated really anywhere. We have a lot of these tabletops, and actually those, if you see these, they have covers, so you can actually move them from place to place. And then the student, now that we had a pilot go through, the students really like the project-based learning. They enjoy when they have to work on a project, and it teaches them also something that's hard to teach in theory. It does the troubleshooting. So when they're doing a couch potato or pizza oven door control or pancake maker and loading robot, when something goes wrong, they have to go in and troubleshoot and see, like, where did we go wrong or what happened? How do we fix this? So they really learn a lot through this, hands-on experience. Plus, it makes it fun. So once we start getting to this point, the attendance tends to go up. And once they get really engaged, it's not really hard to get them back into the classroom. Some of the team projects, they have the hoverboard, for example, my favorite, photovoltaic. So they're actual program projects that they can go and showcase to the community, how this is all possible and how it all works. And of course, we like to connect them even more with our employers, and we do that through the field trips. In a classroom, we cover a lot of what STEM is, how it works, but really, until they get to a factory floor or a shop and actually see how that looks like, it's really kind of hard to conceptualize. So we have every few weeks, they go on a field trip and visit a different employer. Even more, we wanted to make it a next step, and the next step was the work-based learning component. So we made this program a quality pre-apprenticeship and tied it to an industrial maintenance registered apprenticeship. And because of that, we're able to create these work-based learning opportunities for the summers to work in the summer. So during the semester, they go to the curriculum, they go through the levels. But in the summer, we look to connect them with the employers. Now, the workforce shortage kind of messed that up because most of these employers just wanted to hire people. So most of our graduates just got hired instead of going to that work-based learning component. But what's really unique about this program, it really brought everybody together. It brought the K-12 system, post-secondary community colleges, as well as private entities that needs these new workers with new skills that are going to lead to STEM occupations. I left some time for questions, if there's any questions.
Sure, thanks, Surgeon. One of the questions that we have is, how can a high school counselor find out more about connecting students with an Ignite program?
Well, that would be me, at least at the college level. We work with World Community Schools and World Career Center. So Jeff Frost, he's an administrator there. He has probably better idea how that looks like at a high school level. And then, from the industry standpoint, we're supposed to have some of our industry partners here. And if you need to hear from them as well, I can put you in contact with some of our industry partners. I'm sure our information is going to be shared. So feel free to shoot me an email.
Right. And one other question is around the demand for these skilled workers, as you just mentioned. How do you envision, as the demand continues to grow, employers as well as community colleges and education entities kind of tackling with the demand versus the need to ensure that folks are getting the right credentials and getting the right training so that they are successful in those careers? How do you have any ideas on how legislators and policymakers can address those issues?
Well, the policy in the legislature, that takes way too long. And things change much more rapidly in the field that they can respond to. So this is why you need to have a very good relationship with your local businesses, right? So business consortia. So we work with Grow Cedar Valley, for example. They are a local nonprofit that focuses on the workforce and economic development. And we're able to do needs assessments, with the businesses, where they're going to be going in, 1 to 2 years, what skills do you need, who is retiring. So in our training needs, we can be very specific as to what's needed. For example, those behavioral competencies that I talked about, that was directly a result of our employers saying, yes, the technical skills are great, but we really need those soft skills too. And The Ignite, it's a kind of a cookie cutter, when you get from Amatrol, but you can customize that. So we threw in things that's, like SolidWorks, for example. They wanted us to be able to provide that. So that was a great feedback from the industry. So having that industry contacts that can actually continuously feed you information will help you achieve that. I don't know if we can do that at the state level quickly enough, though.
Something to aspire to. Thank you, Surgeon. It's great. The program that you guys are facilitating is an amazing way of connecting students directly to the skills that they need to be productive members of society.
Thank you.
So now we're going to shift to our next speaker. Next up, we have Paula Nissen. Paula is the lead workforce and education program consultant for Iowa Department of Education and outreach liaison for the Community College and Workforce Preparation Division. She specializes in workforce preparation and education outcomes research. Paula has developed innovative research which brings together multiple data sources and requires community and government partners to work together towards a common set of goals and priorities. In her previous role, she developed and disseminated product and services which benefit businesses and community development efforts across the state. This afternoon, Paula will show us how Iowa's community college STEM training programs improve employability and income potential for students. And the floor is yours, Paula.
All right, thank you very much. I will share my screen here. Okay. There we go. I think you should be seeing it, correct? I hope. Is it good? Okay, I just found you guys now. All right, so I work at the Department of Education. We've been since about 2006 full time. We started kind of dipping our toes in about 2003. In 2006, we started measuring what the outcomes were for students across the community college system. And how we do that is we use community college records, so educational records, both on the credit side and the non-credit side. And then once a student either completes or maybe they don't complete and they just leave, we're able to track them into the workforce and measure their wages by quarter. We usually measure about 1 year out after they graduate, and then the industry in which they're employed in. So we're able to identify then what that supply to demand kind of looks like. And since I came to, like surgeon from workforce side, I understand how businesses differentiate from the educational institutions. So bridging that gap or making that kind of flow together becomes a little difficult at times, but we're able to do that in the state of Iowa. Our outcomes research that we do actually in the state is we lead the nation with program outcomes. So what we can do is take the programs that Surgeon was talking about and measure how those completers do once they graduate from college, or if they go on to further education, like Jeff talked about, into a four-year institution. What type of program were they enrolled in? Did they transfer from one program to another? Did they complete or not complete? And obviously then we want to see if they did acquire some sort of licensure or industry credential once they complete their program or during their program. So this is the website I have up here that shows each one of the program impacts and outcomes for all of our students. So feel free to nose around on there. Everything on our community college side is measured by program number. So there's program names and numbers, and you can search for different types of programs. So for this presentation, I took a little just dip into some of the occupations or the related programs that were STEM related. And I think you'll find as we go through here that it really makes a difference on the training that you get at a community college. So as I talked earlier a little bit about what types of things we measure, we've got on the credit or the career and technical education side, those that have associate's degrees, certificates, diplomas. We also measure joint enrollment students. And so those kids like Surgeon was talking about that start out in the high schools and they earn credit while they're in high school, then they maybe complete after they leave high school at a community college. We also take a look at non-credit and what's the impact on under 100 contact hours versus 100 to 200 contact hours, and then over 200 contact hours for the different types of programming at the community colleges. I put together this little supply and demand bubble chart. Not that it's actually something that's related exactly to STEM, but what we do at the department is we will take the supply of workers, meaning those that are coming out of the community colleges, and measure it to the projected demand of job openings across our state. And how we do that is it's called SIP to SOC crosswalking, right? So you've got your classification for instructional programming at the college side, and you need to make it into what is equal to or goes into a particular job at an employer, which is the standard occupational code or classification code. So what we'll do there is we use a crosswalk many times that is produced by ONET. We identify the SIP codes at the college level and then the occupations. And then we find where do the two meet. Sometimes the SIP codes, there might be 3 or 4 different programs that actually fall under the job title that you're looking at the employer side, or vice versa. So making that cross and putting those things together is what we do. And then we'll draw bubble charts such as this, where we take all of the occupations or training programs and put them into either the supply or the demand to see if we're supplementing or supplanting certain types of positions across our state based on that demand of those employers. We don't want to overemphasize or overdo the training in a particular thing, feeding too many people into a particular type of occupation, or we don't want to be not training enough people in a particular type of skill, trade, or occupation. So these bubble charts help just visually in trying to figure out where that demand is at. We used to only be able to match them or look at them with the credit side only. And now we're able to look at both sides of the house where we can do credit and non-credit together to show that what that supply out of the colleges looks like. This is kind of what that crosswalk looks like when it comes down to it. So for example, a SIP code, an agricultural type SIP code on the college side would crosswalk over into multiple types of different occupations on the workforce side. So this is what we use in order to do the supply and demand analysis for the state. Some of the STEM training outcomes examples I pulled together here using this crosswalk and using the data that we analyze annually is, for example, in the information technology certificate, which is 22 credits or more, 91.7% were employed the year following the completion of the program. 9.1% of them had previous education. So sometimes people will have to come back and upskill or get a different type of certificate or something. But as you'll see, the median wage for that certificate is $50,000 plus per year for one of our community college students. Same holds true with the computer programming. Though it's an Associate of Applied Science degree, 66.7% were employed following that, but they also had no previous education or training before they ended up coming out and completing in the STEM field out of the community college. But they're earning $52,000 a year plus. Another example used here is engineering technologies, and that's in the robotics type field. So electromechanical technology, again with the certificate, they're making almost $70,000 a year as a median wage, and 100% of our students that are coming out of the colleges are becoming employed within that year following. Same kind of holds true with automation engineering. 96.6% of them are becoming employed right away, and 21% had previous education and training. So what happens is the students sometimes will go through some training, maybe they get a degree, maybe they go on to a 4-year institution, and then they decide, this isn't for me. I need to go back and get some really, some STEM skills related training so that I can get a better job. And many times that's what's happening to some of these students. They find that 4-year degree or whatever they had decided they were going to do after high school didn't work out. So they come back and they get some additional training in a skilled trade, and they're able to then become employed and earn a better living. This is just an example of what our website looks like. There's Tableau out there. You can search it by any kind of program that you want to look for. This is on the credit side. Just some examples where the triangle is actually the percent that become employed within the first year. And the blue dot kind of tells you what the wage is the first year out of college too. Now on the non-credit side, I just wanted to highlight some of these, how this goes. We measure them before they become enrolled, during their training, and after completion, because a lot of our non-credit students are older than the other chunk of credit students, and they also are usually employed while they're going through their training. So this is a really good measurement for us to show. For example, in the machine tool technology or machinist category, we measure them by quarter. So 87% of these students were employed before they took the training, and they only earned about $17,000 a year, okay? During their training, it bumped up to $17,000, a little over $17,000 a year. But following that machinist training, 93% became employed, earning $46,000 per year. So that shows you how this type of non-credit training, very specific training to those that are maybe currently employed, really helps produce a more self-sufficient person, especially when they complete their program. It's very good to see. Oh, and an additional 21% went on to further training even after the non-credit into a credit program. And this is what that particular Tableau site looks like on our website. So we've got the non-credit and the credit sides. The little purple hats, for example, are those that had prior training in some sort of post-secondary education. Check marks is, the found in employment, quarterly average wage. We've got the median wage. So everything's out there, and you can search by program or by year or by contact hour before, during, and after their training. This has always been kind of an interesting chart to see. These are all for completers. So as you'll see, this big red liberal arts and sciences, though they are important and many times, this represents those that didn't go on to further education. So those liberal arts and science students that were enrolled in a community college, left the community college, did not transfer, and the vast majority of them usually end up in retail trade, for example. Now, what do we see when we look at particular types of STEM occupations? On the left, you're going to see the career cluster in which they are. And Jeff, I totally 100% agree with you on the definition and the homework with the STEM, because yes, this is problematic as we move forward. So I'll be in touch on that one. But for example, manufacturing here, 14.3% of the students that graduated in the manufacturing cluster then went into matched employment and something, down in manufacturing. But notice the lines go everywhere. So though there's training in manufacturing, there are jobs in many different industries for you to know, especially when you're working with students, because they're, like, for example, the IT, it's everywhere, right? So don't just concentrate on one particular type of industry, because anymore computer occupations can be found in every industry. So can a lot of the manufacturing training programs go to just about every industry as well, because there are components that fall into those industries now that maybe weren't there before. So that's kind of it for me. Unless anyone has any questions, I just thought I'd showcase some of the interesting information there that you can go out and take a look at it. And my contact information is there in case you have any questions or want to know anything further.
Thank you, Paula. That was actually very interesting, and a lot of
Thank
good
you.
data and a lot of good representations of that data. One of the questions that came up is you have a lot of data, a lot of good information on employability, how these folks who are getting trained in various areas, manufacturing, IT, et cetera, are landing in jobs at a high employability rate. How do you or what are some ideas that you have or your organization may have on how you convey that message to families, guidance counselors, and really contextualize it in a way that takes students who may be interested in science and engineering, but not interested in maybe going directly into a four-year institution, but really highlighting this as a good pathway, not an alternate
Right.
pathway, because we try to
And
remove the alternate out of
That's the thing they want to know, right? First thing out of their mouth. Well, how much does it pay?
Exactly.
So that's, I know that's what my kids did automatically. Well, when you show them that there's many different options, okay, there's short-term certificates, there's associate's degrees, there's all kinds of ways that you can get the skills and training that you need in order to get a good job. And you show them that, yes, you could do this and earn this much of money, or you could take this short-term certificate program and earn the same kind of thing. I mean, it depends on what you train in, what the skills are that you acquire, the demand of the employer, and then matching that student up with the employment opportunities. So there's a lot of options for students anymore, and that I think it's something that the career counselors in schools, they're utilizing this kind of data. They've got it matched up for the transition counselors going from the schools to the high schools to either training at a community college, university, or some that are in registered apprenticeships. And then they'll highlight too what happens if you don't complete a program, if you don't go on to post-secondary education or training of some kind. What happens to you then? You make a lot less money. So
great. I think it's a message that a lot of parents are dealing with as, kids are graduating. You want to make sure your kid is successful. So
yep.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to our next speakers that will be tag teaming the final presentation. We have Laura Klein and Kayla Hagan. Laura has been with Actilent Services for 7 years, where she has spent time supporting scientific companies in Iowa and Nebraska for various hiring needs. She currently serves on the biotechnology committee at Des Moines Area Community College. Laura has also served on the Iowa Institute of Food Technologists Board of Directors. She received her BA degree in biology from the University of Northern Iowa. Kayla has been with Actilent Services for over 4 years, supporting manufacturing clients with engineering consulting and services support in Central Iowa. Kayla received her Bachelor of Science degree from Iowa State University. Laura and Kayla will provide a recruiter's view of current and future opportunities for the Iowa STEM workforce, especially those with community college or other technical training. Laura and Kayla, you have the floor.
Thank you. We'll share my screen here quick. Okay, let me real quick. Okay, we good to go? Perfect. So thank you for that introduction. So that covered a lot of my background, but my name is Laura Klein and this is my partner, Kayla Hagan. So we're just here to give a little background about the local market and the clients that we support here in Central Iowa. So just to get started, some of you may wonder who Actilent is. We're a new brand in the marketplace. So some of you may have formerly recognized us as Aerotech. We're a Legis Group company within the recruitment space. But this past July, our organization made a strategic decision to get more niche specific in the industries that we do support. And so as a result, we broke off into 3 separate companies, and Actilent is our organization that primarily focuses within the engineering and scientific space, while anything IT related remains with our sister company, Tech Systems. So just to give you a little bit of background on Actilent, so we have over 4,500 current clients that we support on a national and global level. Kayla and myself locally sit in Des Moines, Iowa, so we support Central Iowa, while we also have an office in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, as well as the Quad Cities. So, we certainly have a smaller portion of that 4,500 client base, but that's just to give you an overview of what we do on a larger scale. So within those 4,500 clients that we support, we have over 27,000 consultants that are engaged with our clients. So within the engineering and sciences space, from more entry-level roles to higher level professionals within those different industries. And then, as I alluded to, us being local here in Des Moines, we have 150 offices across the country, and then over 20 delivery centers, here in the US as well as globally. So with that said, being a privately held organization, we have a lot of partnerships with organizations that have multiple locations in different states that we support. And then on the talent side of things, we have a great opportunity to help connect talent with the right opportunity that they're looking for that really aligns with their skill sets and backgrounds. So just to dive a little bit deeper into the capabilities that we support. So within the sciences, we're in healthcare, clinical research, and laboratory sciences. And then on the engineering side, we're in utilities, software and systems, manufacturing, construction management, environmental, and civil. So, perfect. And then I'll pass it over to Paula.
Yeah, so with the change this summer and us just trying to get more niche in the STEM field, we just looked at how do we attract talent more as it's become more of a gap in the market. And that's a big reason we made the change. And so with that, we do have 3 ways that we really partner with our clients. The first is contract talent. So that's where we are an extension to our clients, either engineering team or their lab or whatever it is, quality team on the R&D, and we'll have someone on site that is an employee of ours to help work with them. And sometimes that is very long term. Sometimes it is for a project if you're really looking for a specific technical knowledge to come in and train your team. We have a engineering services company and scientific services company that previously was called Easy Engineering. We've owned them for over 10 years now, and they're with us under Actilent. And so that's where more of a statement of work. We have these people employed with us alongside us as our coworkers and in design centers around the globe. And so that is more of an on-site, off-site, or offshore model where we help support on whatever kind of projects our clients are looking for. But those people are employed with us full time. And then we also have managed talent, and that is where we'll have a team on site working with our clients, and we're really managing the whole anything from onboarding, training, engagement throughout while they're there, and really managing the whole aspect of it. A little bit more involved, but yeah. So it's different ways that we work with them, but it's when we're talking to our consultants that we work with, they are long-term employees of us, more as our coworker, just as the market has continued to get more niche.
Sure. Here, go to the next screen. All right, perfect. So my team primarily focuses within the scientific area that I shared. So some of the main skill sets that we place with our current customers are lab assistants and lab technicians, chemistry technicians, and greenhouse technicians. And so for a lot of those roles, these wages can depend on clients and amount of experience, but for some of the entry-level roles that we're seeing within the scientific area with, a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree, we're seeing candidates come in anywhere between $17 to $23 an hour in Central Iowa. And we definitely have seen that on the increase. So with the competitive nature of the current market, we've definitely been consulting a lot of our clients on different pay rates, and that's a huge indicator of how they're going to attract the best talent around. So we are fortunate with our partnership with different organizations to be able to create and present different compensation data to a lot of our customers to continue to make sure that they are paying the best for the talent in this specific area, but that's kind of where things sit right now. Some of the main industries, in Central Iowa that we support and partner with some of our customers, agriculture, food and beverage, pharmaceutical, and then healthcare as well. The biggest thing for our area within healthcare that we're really trying to grow and progress is just the nature of healthcare and some of the compliance and liabilities associated with that and how we partner and navigate through some of those client relationships there. But certainly a lot of opportunity within the scientific space within Central Iowa.
Yeah, and on the engineering side, so I really focus on engineering within manufacturing, and then we also have a division that does engineering within like construction management or like architecture or civil. So both of us, we have a huge demand for drafters. We cannot find enough drafters in the world. And then like everyone else, we're always looking for automation and controls or robotics technicians. We've seen a huge uptick in the number of electronic technicians that we're working with and helping anything from a lot more hands-on and a lot more as a lot of my clients are in the agriculture space. So with that, wages have also, this is a pretty wide range, but and even this doesn't really cover it. I would say majority of the time we're at least at 20, but we're definitely in the mid to 20, 25 to like $30 an hour is really what we're seeing. It is. I mean, we also, on the one side, we do partner with a lot of people that have their 4-year degree. And oftentimes we see people coming in from, if they have some of these hands-on mechanical aptitude skill sets, we see them at similar or above wages of people that we're getting with 4-year degrees. Like I mentioned, a lot of my clients are in the agriculture space, heavy equipment or construction equipment. We work with a lot of integrators around Iowa, and then also any consumer products, and then any on the construction side, really any general contractor, anything like that, we do a lot of partnership with. So within the areas that we serve, we do see skill gaps from the candidate, especially entry-level candidates that we're partnering with. Some of that is applicable experience versus academic experience. We see a lot of, oftentimes, hearing kind of what Hawkeye's doing, it was of interest to us for sure, because we do see a lot of times they come in and they don't have enough mechanical aptitude or they don't have enough industry experience. And so we're really coaching and partnering with our clients on what training do we need to offer entry-level people to get them up and going, because there is so few people in the market. And so that's a big area that we're focusing on, both on our consultant side and on our client side, and how we partner with them and what we're offering them. We do see a gap that we see is in just basic computer systems. You know, I think every position we work with or every client, you know, people need to know how to use Outlook, use the calendar, data entry, Excel, Word, anything like that. We do a lot of training around that once they're on our side, and just another area that we see that we just have to spend a little more time on.
And I think specifically on the scientific side, I've seen a lot of customers really looking for candidates with LIMS experience, which is a laboratory information management system. So a lot of customers have their own specific version of that. But just to Kayla's points, candidates that come in and feel comfortable navigating different computer systems is very important. So just as much computer exposure that candidates can get within their academic experience is really helpful with that. Next thing that I see kind of on the scientific side is just realistic kind of career expectations and just knowing what the general industry looks like within Iowa. So occasionally, you know, in some of our recruiting, we'll have scientific candidates that want to lead R&D efforts and different things like that, which that is awesome and great. There are, I would say, less opportunities for that within Iowa. So if candidates are wanting to stay here, just having that realistic expectation of working within agriculture and in quality roles that, you know, although at times can be repetitive, there's a lot of advancement and great aspects of those roles as well. And I think with that comes the reality of working, you know, potentially different shifts than just first shift and second shift and overnight shifts and things like that. And I think that goes along well with manufacturing as well. That is the nature of our industry. And so just, you know, kind of setting those expectations has allowed candidates to be more open-minded as they enter the workforce. And that allows us to present a wide variety of opportunities for them with different customers that have those different work situations to hopefully ultimately find them the right fit. Another big thing, a part of what we do is the recruitment and the interview that candidates go through to essentially land their position with a lot of our customers. And so a big thing, is the soft skills that we talk about. So just being able to present themselves and present the skills that they've learned in their educational background. A big thing that a lot of our customers are looking for is not only does this person have the experience to do this job, but can they, present themselves in a professional way and talk me through situational interviewing where maybe they were faced with a challenge and how did they overcome that challenge and what was the result of that. And so really just getting and digging deeper with a lot of the candidates that we see, coming out of college, this was my first job out of getting my bachelor's degree within biology. And I wouldn't necessarily say I had a ton of situations to fall back on in some of those types of questions, but I do think, as a career readiness opportunity, there could be some area of additional growth for candidates moving into the job market, really to just kind of well define their interviewing ability.
Yeah, and then I would think across the board, automation and robotics, it's a word we pass around every single day in our world. And it's just the more exposure we can get to people, especially while they're getting training or going to school, the better. The more that they can speak on to our clients or to us, it definitely is a huge need. But I would say, right now we're looking for so many people. And so if they're, any way that we can partner with the schools around Iowa, we're definitely trying to get people more opportunities. We're a good company to partner with just because we do work with so many different clients in so many different industries and do get some different work that's not always posted, on a general job board or anything like that. And so that's really where we're marketing and we're educating students and anyone in the job market on what's actually out there and what's open.
Yeah. And I would say one of the things that I just wanted to share from a lot of our customers from feedback that we get, a lot of candidates in the scientific space that I can speak on have gone from, associate's degree to bachelor's degree to master's degree. And a lot of the managers that we work with customers here locally really appreciate and value the candidates that maybe just do have that associate's degree that can come into the workforce, gain applicable skills. And then, if the job advancement career, dictates going back for further education, that's certainly there. But we've often at times seen candidates go from entry level to a master's degree and then really pigeonhole themselves into opportunities that would be open to that type of background. So I think it's awesome to continue to promote the opportunities that are available to candidates coming out with community college backgrounds, because there's a lot of them, to Kayla's point. So any way that we can help be a resource to the current students entering the job force, but then also to the clients that are in this space, we're happy to do so. So thank you for having us.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you, Laura and Kayla. One quick question. What advice would you give a student or someone matriculating through either a technical program or even at the four-year institution? I think regardless of where you're getting your education, you don't know where your skill gap is until you are met with your skill gap and you're in that interview process. Oh, I didn't get that type of training. So how can students and families and communities begin when they're in these programs or beginning to think about the programs? How do they adjust and make sure that they're ensuring that whatever program they are applying to or getting into addresses the skill gaps or the skill needs, but also that they are being proactive as new innovations come down the pipeline. Skills will be changing, right? So people will need to be retrained or develop new competencies based on the new technologies. So how do they kind of tackle both of those issues that it impacts everybody?
Yeah, I can speak on that a little bit. I think one of the biggest things that I would say is just getting involved with different programs within the universities or even at the high school level to just get a better outlook into what opportunities are out there. So I know you had mentioned I sat on the IFT board for a handful of years. And for those of you that aren't familiar, that's the Institute of Food Technologists. So one thing, that's a cohort that partners closely with Iowa State Food Science Program, but would certainly be open to welcoming more community colleges involvement in that. But essentially, one of the great aspects of that is we did a lot of, on a quarterly basis, went to tour different facilities to understand what working in a food manufacturing environment looked like. You know, prior to getting to the point of graduation and then you're moving on to your career, you kind of have a glimpse as you're going through your programming to get a better idea of what area you want to go. And I think there's a lot of different organizations like that. I'm also been a part of the Iowa Biotech Association. So there's a lot of different things just from a perspective to see what's in the industry can help at least give some direction of what way students want to go.
Yeah, and I would say it's just never too early to start the conversation with an organization like us, especially while they're going through school, and just asking for what we see and what we would recommend. I mean, we talk to people throughout while they're entering school, when they're finishing school, throughout school. There's just a lot of resources out there, and it's just never too early.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both. I'd like to thank all of our speakers, Jeff Weld, Surgeon Golov, Paula Nissen, and Laura Klein and Kayla Hagan. We'd like to also thank our sponsors. Let's move on. The Greater Des Moines Partnership, the Iowa School Council Association, Hawkeye Community College, Iowa Department of Education, and Actilent. For additional information, as I mentioned earlier in the event, you can visit scienceisus.org. You can follow us for updates, as well as when this recording becomes live for on-demand viewing, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel or YouTube page and view that, as well as our previous discussions and our future discussions. We try to make sure that we have that resource available for folks who aren't able to attend. You can also follow us on Twitter, and you can follow our Instagram page where we highlight many of the technically trained STEM professionals across the country, whether they have bachelor's degrees, PhDs, MDs, or associate's degrees, or just a basic vocational training, because they're all STEM careers and they are all a part of the science and engineering community. I want to thank everybody for attending, and we will give you the rest of your evening.